Good evening. I'm Chief William Scott of the San Francisco Police Department. We are here this evening for a virtual town hall meeting regarding an officer-involved shooting that occurred on April 21st, 2020 at the 500 block of Jones Street. Mr. Thomas O'Bannon was the suspect involved. Mr. O'Bannon was not injured by gunfire during the officer-involved shooting. But before I move forward, I want to explain that we are conducting a virtual town hall meeting to comply with our current public health order and to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. I would like to announce to our viewers that we have sign language interpretation services here this evening to assist any persons who are deaf or hard of hearing. Also, we recognize the traumatic impact that officer-involved shootings have on members of our communities at large. With that said, any of our viewers or members of the community who are experiencing trauma from this incident or from the information or images presented during this town hall can contact the San Francisco Department of Public Health Crisis Line at 415-970-3800 for trauma services. Next, I will explain what we hope to accomplish in this town hall. First and foremost, tonight is about transparency and educating the public about our officer-involved shooting investigative processes and protocols. It is our intention to release known facts involving the incident in a non-judgmental way. As we release the facts, I'd like to emphasize that this is an ongoing investigation, and as such, there are some facts that we cannot release today because we either do not have the answers at this point and/or the release of certain information is prohibited by law or could compromise the investigation. Next, there was body-worn camera footage that captured the incident. For those of you here tonight who may not be familiar with the San Francisco Police Department's body-worn camera policy, Department General Order 10.11, it states the following in part. It is the goal of the San Francisco Police Department to release body-worn camera footage or recordings to the greatest extent possible unless disclosure would A, endanger the safety of a witness or another person involved in the investigation, B, jeopardize the successful completion of an investigation, or C, violate local, state, and/or federal laws, including but not limited to the right of privacy. Those three standards determine whether it is appropriate to release body-worn camera footage. In this case, based on the assessment of those three standards, we have determined that it is appropriate to release body-worn camera footage of this incident. I'd like to remind everyone that video evidence is only a portion of the evidence to consider when making both legal and administrative conclusions on officer-involved shootings. While video recordings obtained from body-worn cameras or any other recording device provide an objective record of the recorded event, it is understood that video recordings provide a limited perspective. In fact, there are many other factors to consider, including witness statements, physical evidence, and forensic analysis, to name a few. We are releasing video evidence at this stage of the investigation for transparency and not in an effort to make final conclusions. Although transparency has been the mantra of our officer-involved shooting investigations for several years now, this level of transparency is consistent with California's recently passed transparency legislation, Senate Bill 1421. All of the information that we are releasing in tonight's town hall, including the video footage, will be posted on the SFPD website at sanfranciscopolice.org and made available to the public after the conclusion of this virtual town hall. The San Francisco Police Department directives mandate that we release the name of the officer or officers involved in an officer-involved shooting within 10 days of the incident, unless there are safety concerns. In this case, we have conducted a safety assessment and have not discovered any safety concerns. Therefore, the name of the officer will be released later in this presentation by Commander Robert O'Sullivan. Next, I would like to explain the investigative process for officer-involved shootings. San Francisco has a multi-agency response to officer-involved shootings, and each agency's investigation is independent. First, immediately after an officer-involved shooting occurs, representatives from the San Francisco Police Department Investigative Services Detail and Internal Affairs Unit, representatives from the District Attorney's Office of Independent Investigations, also known as IIB, and representatives from the Department of Police Accountability, also known as DPA, are all notified. All notified agencies send the appropriate representatives to respond to the scene to conduct their respective independent investigations. There are potentially 5 investigative processes in an officer-involved shooting investigation involving an on-duty San Francisco police officer. The first investigative process is that of the San Francisco District Attorney's Office, the Independent Investigations Bureau, or IIB. IIB is involved from the onset of the investigation to determine the legality of the officer-involved shooting. Based on their independent investigation and review, the District Attorney of San Francisco will make the final decision as to whether the involved officer's actions comply with the laws of the state of California. The second investigative process is that of the SFPD Investigative Services Detail, or ISD. ISD is the investigative unit responsible for investigating the underlying criminal activity that led up to the officer-involved shooting. In this case, the underlying criminal activity involved allegations of an assault with a deadly weapon and a robbery, which you will hear about shortly. The third investigative process is conducted by the SFPD Internal Affairs Unit. Internal Affairs is responsible for conducting an administrative investigation to determine if the involved officers met the standards and requirements of SFPD policy. The investigative services details internal affairs investigations run parallel, but each has a distinct focus and each maintains an internal firewall to comply with legal standards and requirements. The fourth investigative process is the investigation of the Department of Police Accountability. The DPA is mandated by Ballot Measure D of June 2016 to investigate all San Francisco Police Department incidents in which an SFPD officer discharges a weapon which results in injury or death. Although this incident did not result in death from the involved officer discharging his gun, in those incidents that do involve death, the fifth investigative process is that of the medical examiner's office. The medical examiner has the responsibility of conducting an on-scene investigation as well as custody of and collection of evidence from the deceased person in those instances where an officer-involved shooting results in a fatality. The medical examiner also has the responsibility to conduct an autopsy to determine the cause of death and report the findings. Again, I'd like to restate that the medical examiner's investigation was not required in this investigation because there is no loss of life. Now, Commander Robert O'Sullivan will discuss the facts of this incident, including the facts you will see shortly from video evidence. We will then allow time for members of the public to call in to make public comments regarding this incident and this virtual town hall. Thank you.
Good evening. As mentioned, my name is Robert O'Sullivan. I'm the commander assigned to the department's Risk Management Office. Today, I will provide information regarding the officer-involved shooting which occurred on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. My presentation will include information regarding the events of that day, as well as 911 tapes, dispatch audio, and both body-worn camera and surveillance video. I will now read some prepared remarks. The officer-involved shooting that occurred on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 was preceded by an incident in which the suspect committed an aggravated assault of a victim in the Central Police District of San Francisco. The aggravated assault incident occurred in close proximity to the officer-involved shooting, both in location and time. The physical description of the suspect and weapon used in both incidents also closely matched. The information provided today regarding these events is based on a preliminary review of body-worn camera and surveillance video, initial statements and interviews, and evidence processed to this point. The precise chronology of these incidents is currently under investigation. The following is a summary of events as they are understood as of today, Thursday, April 30th, 2020. On Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 at 5:32 a.m., the San Francisco Department of Emergency Management, DEM, received a 911 call regarding a possible robbery and aggravated assault on the 600 block of Post Street. In this incident, officers from the Central Police District responded to an A-priority call regarding a report of a male subject who had struck the victim with a wooden board. At the time of the occurrence, the victim was walking his dog when he was struck multiple times by the suspect, who was waited in an alcove of a building as the victim walked by. During the incident, the victim lost his phone and sustained serious injuries to his face. A description of the suspect was provided by the 911 caller to the dispatcher, and that description is as follows. An African-American gentleman with braids and about 6 feet or so, maybe 170 or 180 pounds. He's wearing a white sweatshirt, white type shirt, and a lighter pair of pants. He has a board with him. Central District officers were dispatched to the 600 block of Post Street at 5:36 a.m. and located the victim at 5:40. Responding officers located the crime scene and summoned emergency medical aid for the victim. Officers were then informed that the suspect had fled on foot after the attack. The victim initially believed his phone had been taken during the incident, but later located it near the scene. At 6:36 a.m., approximately 1 hour after the initial aggravated assault call, DEM received a 911 call from the Pierre Hotel, which is located at 540 Jones Street. The caller stated the following: "We need the police to come to the Pierre Hotel, quick. There's a guy in here. He's waving knives at people and all type of stuff, and he won't leave the building. He's locked himself behind the door, and he's swinging a bloody 2x4. He keeps reaching like he has a weapon. He has a 2x4 out. I seen something. I don't know if it was a knife. I don't know what it is, but he keeps reaching for it, but he keeps swinging the 2x4. The 911 caller further described that the subject locked himself inside the clerk's office in the lobby of the hotel. The caller described the subject as a light-skinned, slim, African-American male with dreads, in his late 20s or early 30s, 5'9", wearing a red or white shirt. The caller then stated, "I got to get off the phone. He looks like he's about to hit my coworker. He keeps opening the door." The call then abruptly disconnected. DEM received the 911 call at 6:36. Tenderloin district officers were then dispatched to 540 Jones Street and arrived on scene at 6:43. While officers were en route to this incident, the dispatcher informed them of the following. Be advised, earlier there was a 594, which is the radio term for a vandalism call, and a 211, a robbery call, in the Central, Jones and Geary, that had a similar, possibly the same suspect description with the 2x4. Officers arrived at the Pierre Hotel at 6:43 a.m. and entered the hotel lobby, where they observed a man, later identified as Thomas O'Bannon, inside the enclosed clerk's office. At this time, the officers began speaking with Mr. O'Bannon through a window in the plexiglass enclosure. Additional officers began evacuating uninvolved building occupants from the lobby area. Officers observed that Mr. O'Bannon was bleeding from a wound to his left hand, and they requested an ambulance to respond to their location and stand by. For the next several minutes, officers attempted to calm Mr. O'Bannon. During this time, Mr. O'Bannon refused the officer's request that he place his hands through the window for handcuffing and repeatedly held up the wooden board across his chest. The primary officer explained that he and the other officers wanted to help end the incident peacefully. The officer noticed that Mr. O'Bannon continually glanced at the less lethal weapon the officer was holding. The officer explained that the object was quote-unquote a beanbag gun, that is for non-lethal force, and the officer possessed it because Mr. O'Bannon had a weapon. Mr. O'Bannon made statements throughout this time period to the officers, such as, "I'm not going anywhere, I'm not going back, and there ain't gonna be no peace." At 6:53, after the initial officers had been on scene for 10 minutes, patrol supervisors arrived on scene. A sergeant took over communication with Mr. O'Bannon and attempted to persuade him to surrender peacefully. Mr. O'Bannon then began to alternately pace on foot within the office and sit in office chairs while holding the wooden board and speaking with the sergeant. At 7:13, a San Francisco Fire Department paramedic began to speak with Mr. O'Bannon. The paramedic explained that she was not a police officer and that she and her partner wanted to provide medical help to Mr. O'Bannon. She showed him some of the equipment the paramedics had brought and attempted to persuade him to exit the room peacefully. Mr. O'Bannon would not cooperate and refused multiple requests to walk out of the room to end the conflict. At 7:25, SFPD officers resumed speaking with Mr. O'Bannon. He began walking around within the office, moved large boxes and office electronics to the back door area of the office, and stacked them to erect a barrier. Mr. O'Bannon became agitated, picking up the wooden board and again holding it diagonally in front of his body. At 7:29 a.m., a woman who identified herself as a case manager attempted to speak with Mr. O'Bannon. The case manager asked Mr. O'Bannon to pass the wooden board through the plexiglass window several times, and Mr. O'Bannon refused. The case manager was later determined to be an employee of the Tenderloin Housing Clinic. The case manager continued to speak with Mr. O'Bannon for several minutes. During this interaction, Mr. O'Bannon stood up from a chair and picked up a screwdriver. He then picked up the board and began striking it against the plexiglass partition. Mr. O'Bannon alternated between speaking with the case manager and striking the walls, windows, and back door with the board. Mr. O'Bannon then opened what appeared to be the security or fire alarm box behind the desk and began attempting to damage the device and pull it off the wall. He then thrust the wooden board out of the plexiglass window opening and slammed it against the rails of the opening. Due to this behavior, the case manager could not safely continue speaking with Mr. O'Bannon. Officers began speaking with Mr. O'Bannon. Mr. O'Bannon picked up a fire extinguisher and continued to stack more items against the rear exit door. At 7:52, SFPD had been on scene for 1 hour and 9 minutes. Officers formulated a plan and opened the rear door of the office, issuing verbal commands to Mr. O'Bannon as they attempted to take him into custody. Mr. O'Bannon immediately began to resist and raised the wooden board and thrust it out of the door towards the officers in an overhead striking motion as officers attempted to make entry into the clerk's office. Mr. O'Bannon then lost control of the wooden board as an officer attempted to take it from his grasp and withdrew back into the office. Officers continued to issue verbal commands to Mr. O'Bannon, who failed to comply with their directives. At this time, officers in the lobby deployed OC spray, a pepper extraction that is also commonly referred to as pepper spray, and an extended range impact weapon, or ERIW, commonly referred to as a beanbag gun, through the document opening in the plexiglass window. One officer from the rear office also discharged a beanbag gun. Mr. O'Bannon again approached the open rear office door, retrieved an object later determined to be a screwdriver, and brandished it in a backhanded grip. Officers observed the object in Mr. O'Bannon's hand and announced, "He's got a knife and he's got the screwdriver." Mr. O'Bannon exited the office while still appearing to hold the object in his right hand. Officers in the back room then ran out of an exit door onto the sidewalk as Mr. O'Bannon pursued them through the kitchen area of the outer office, still brandishing the object in his right hand. As officers exited onto the sidewalk, one of the exiting officers tripped and fell onto his stomach. The officer quickly stood and began running from Mr. O'Bannon, who continued to pursue directly behind him. Mr. O'Bannon reached out toward the officer while pursuing him. The officer then discharged his firearm while backing up and falling to the ground. Mr. O'Bannon spun his body and began running from the area. Preliminary analysis of the body-worn camera video appears to show that the officer discharged his firearm 3 times. Mr. O'Bannon fled on foot southbound on Jones Street, then eastbound on Ellis Street, and officers pursued on foot. Mr. O'Bannon then ran into Glide Memorial Church. Mr. O'Bannon ran through the building lobby where he stopped, turned, and faced pursuing officers while brandishing a screwdriver. Officers provided repeated verbal commands for Mr. O'Bannon to get on the ground. One officer deployed a beanbag gun as Mr. O'Bannon faced the officers while brandishing the screwdriver. Mr. O'Bannon then turned and ran through an open stairwell, running to the basement. The door closed and locked behind him, preventing the officers from pursuing down the stairway. Officers attempted to descend a separate stairway a short time later. At this time, Mr. O'Bannon discharged a fire extinguisher as officers approached, causing them to withdraw to the ground floor. Mr. O'Bannon then barricaded himself in the basement and armed himself with 2 kitchen knives. Officers subsequently established a perimeter around Glide Memorial Church, evacuated the building, and began speaking with Mr. O'Bannon down the stairwell. The SFPD crisis hostage negotiation team arrived on scene and continued to negotiate the peaceful surrender of Mr. O'Bannon for approximately 11 hours. During this time period, Mr. O'Bannon made statements that expressed his intention to be killed by officers. SFPD tactical officers planned and performed the rescue of an employee who was sheltered in a basement room adjacent to where Mr. O'Bannon was located. SFPD officers made contact with the family of Mr. O'Bannon, who responded to the scene and provided assistance during this incident. Near the end of the standoff, Mr. O'Bannon ceased communicating with crisis and hostage negotiation team members. SFPD tactical officers then entered the basement to locate Mr. O'Bannon, where they utilized less lethal options to insist in taking him into custody. Once in custody, Mr. O'Bannon was transported to Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital for treatment. So some additional information. It was determined that Mr. O'Bannon was not struck by gunfire. Mr. O'Bannon was treated for non-life-threatening injuries at Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital, where he was hospitalized for pre-existing medical conditions unrelated to this incident. Evidence. Evidence was located at the incident scene of the officer-involved shooting, as well as at Glide Memorial Church. Evidence recovered included a wooden board with what appeared to have blood on it, 2 fire extinguishers, a screwdriver, and several large kitchen knives. The firearm of the discharging officer was determined to have a dried red substance on its frame and slide. DNA analysis is pending to determine the origin of this substance. Video. Video was recovered from multiple sources, including approximately 180 body-worn camera videos, 10 privately owned surveillance camera videos, and additional video is being sought by our investigators. Witnesses. Witnesses to the officer-involved shooting have been interviewed, and independent witnesses to the preliminary crimes were located and have also been interviewed. Additional witnesses are being sought by investigators. The suspect. The San Francisco District Attorney's Office has filed charges against Mr. O'Bannon on April 23, 2020. The charges consist of the following: 1 count of 245A1 of the California Penal Code, assault with a deadly weapon. 1 count of 245A4 of the California Penal Code, assault likely to result in great bodily injury. They have also filed 2 sentencing enhancements, 12022.7A and 1203E4, both of the California Penal Code. Our involved member. The member involved in this officer-involved shooting is Officer Jordan Townsend, star number 257. Officer Townsend is a 4-year veteran of the San Francisco Police Department and is assigned to the Field Operations Bureau. In accordance with department policy, all members involved in an officer-involved shooting are immediately placed on paid administrative leave. As mentioned by the chief previously, there are additional investigations. They are as follows. The Independent Investigations Bureau of the San Francisco District Attorney's Office and the San Francisco Police Department Investigative Services Detail are conducting an investigation into this incident. The SFPD Internal Affairs Division is also conducting an investigation, administrative in nature. Investigators are in the process of determining if any other related incidents occurred in this area prior to the officer-involved shooting. And finally, Mr. O'Bannon is currently under investigation for 4 burglary and vandalism incidents that occurred in the morning hours of Tuesday, April 21st, prior to the incident on the 500 block of Jones Street. At this time, we're going to transition to the playing of 911 calls, dispatch tape, and the playing of both body-worn camera and surveillance video. Prior to doing so, I am going to read a statement. You're about to see relevant video footage and learn about other evidence related to this case so you can have a better understanding of what occurred based on what we know right now. We are still in the very early stages of an investigation that can take months to complete, and our understanding of the incident may change as additional evidence is collected and reviewed. We do not draw any conclusion as to whether the officers acted consistent with our policies and the law until all the facts are known and the investigation is complete. A word of caution. The images and information you are about to see and hear may be disturbing. When a police officer uses force to arrest a suspect or defend against attack, the images are graphic and may be difficult to watch. In addition, there may be strong language used by those in the video. Viewer discretion is advised, especially for young children and sensitive viewers. We encourage those in need of help to contact the San Francisco Department of Public Health Crisis Line at area code 415-970-3800. We will now play a 911 call. This audio was provided to the San Francisco Police Department from the San Francisco Department of Emergency Management. DEM provides dispatch services for the fire and police departments in San Francisco. The audio is the 911 call from the aggravated assault incident that was reported at 5:32 a.m. on April 21st, 2020. This incident occurred on the 600 block of Post Street. Please note the victim's voice has been changed to protect his safety.
San Francisco Police Dispatcher, what's your number? Hi, this is and I'm calling from my girlfriend's phone number. I was walking down Post Street towards downtown from Leavenworth, and I was in front of I forget, I'm probably the block. Anyways, I was attacked by an African-American gentleman with braids, and I was about 6 feet or so, maybe 170, 180 pounds. He had a
and this occurred at Post in Leavenworth?
No, down the street from there.
Okay, where are you now, sir?
I went home because I lost my phone in this process.
Okay, what's your address?
My address is
And what room or apartment are you in?
I'm headed out because my dog was with me at the time, and the dog escaped. So,
Okay, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to meet with the officers?
yes, I would. And I want to file a complaint.
I know. Well, why don't you... When do you want to do this?
Right now, I'm like down to where.
Okay, well, we don't make appointments, so do you want to go get your dog and then call me back?
All right. All right.
Is that what you want to do?
Yes, straight.
Do you need an ambulance?
I don't know. But I don't need an ambulance. I just got bloody nose. And that's puppies.
Okay, so you're now?
Not right now. No, I'm moving towards downtown. I'm on post, and I am looking for the dog.
You're on post
my
in
girlfriend.
where?
I just passed Leavenworth. I'm about halfway down the block at the moment, walking towards Taylor. It was around, I think it was in the next block. Right now, my eyes are closed up. All right.
Okay, when you see the officers, flag them down, okay?
All right, I will.
Okay, do you remember
That's
what
fine.
this guy had on? What he was wearing?
No. Yes, I do. He's wearing white. He's right in front of, where the U.S. Hotel is.
Wearing white what?
He is between Leavenworth and...
Okay, sir, what was he wearing? He was wearing a white
He's
what?
wearing white sweatshirt, white type shirt, and a lighter pair of pants as it's aboard with him. And he's standing right down the street, the next building from the U.S. Hotel.
By the U.S. Hotel?
737.
Okay, and where are you now?
We're by Farm Table, kind of across the street and down from him. And he's standing there with the board.
All right. When you see the officers, flag them down.
All right.
We will now play a second 911 call, which was also provided by the San Francisco Department of Emergency Management. The audio is the 911 call from 540 Jones Street, the Pierre Hotel, where a subject was reported to be waving a wooden board. The call was received at 6:36 a.m.
San Francisco 911, what's the exact location of the emergency?
940 Jones Street. 540 Jones Street. We need the police to come to the Pierre Hotel quick. There's a guy in here. He's waving knives at people and all type of stuff, and he won't leave the building.
Okay, what's your name?
He locked himself behind the door. He's swinging a bloody 2x4. He keeps reaching like he has a weapon.
Wait, is it a knife or a 2x4?
He has a 2x4 out. I seen something. I don't know if it was a knife. I don't know what it is, but he keeps reaching for it. But he keeps swinging a 2x4. And he's locked himself in. He won't leave. He's not even a resident here.
Okay. He's locked himself into what?
In the front lobby.
Tuesday, April 21, 2.
All I heard was a
All right.
glass plate.
Okay, hold on. What does he look like? Is he white, black, Latin, Asian?
He's light-skinned with dreads.
Or does that mean he's black?
He's slim. Yeah, he's black, slim, with dreads.
0638
About how old? 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s?
Maybe early 30s, late 20s.
How tall is he?
38 and 20.
Probably like 5'9".
Thin, medium, heavy?
He's not leaving, so I need somebody here quick. I just seen the police, so I couldn't break him down.
Okay, yeah, they're coming, but I need a description for them, okay? Is he thin guy, medium guy, heavy guy?
Yeah, thin.
All right. And what color shirt or jacket is he wearing?
38 and
The shirt is red.
Red shirt. What color pants?
Tuesday,
Oh,
April 20.
You know what color pants they are?
2020.
hold on.
38 and 55.
Garf.
06
It's a white shirt with like blue jeans.
15.
He's a white shirt, blue jeans.
Yeah.
White shirt, blue jeans. Did you actually see the? Did you actually see the knife or not?
Seconds.
I didn't see the knife. The
He kept
residents told me
reaching.
they
He
seen it.
kept reaching for something.
39.
Yeah, the residents told me they seen it.
5 seconds.
Okay, hold on.
06 39 and 45 seconds. Tuesday.
And you also saw him reaching for something that's not the 2x4?
2020.
Yeah.
06 39 and 55 seconds.
And you said the 2x4 is bloody?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of blood on it?
40 and
Yes.
15 seconds.
Okay. What's your phone number?
40 and 25 seconds.
Okay. And,
06
hold on one second. What is he doing right now?
He's not leaving. He's locked in there, going through stuff.
Okay. Just let me ask you a protocol question. Have you or anyone else at this location been confirmed or suspected of having coronavirus?
No.
Okay. Do you or anyone else at this location have flu-like symptoms?
No, nobody. No.
And you wouldn't be able to speak for that person waving the 2x4 around there, right?
No. Yeah, I gotta get off the phone. He looked like he's about to hit my coworker.
Are they in the same room?
No, he's opening the door.
Which door is he trying to open?
The following audio is a recording of a DEM dispatcher broadcasting information to officers who were en route to 540 Jones Street.
John 49, I'm just advised earlier there was a 594 and a 211 in the Central, Jones and Gary, that had a similar, possible the same suspect description with the 2x4.
2020.
Copy, put it on the stick.
0640.
Copy, I'll advise them.
15 seconds.
The next 6 videos are from the body-worn camera of one of the first officers to arrive at 540 Jones Street. Body-worn camera 1 of 6. In the video, officers are seen entering the building and making contact with Mr. O'Bannon, who is inside of the enclosed clerk's office.
Oh, he's in the office. Sir, back away. Sir, what are you doing? Are you gonna come out cooperative? You're gonna cooperate? Guys, can we all get away from the lobby? Sir, can we talk peacefully? That would be nice. Here, let me. What's going on, man?
What's on your waist?
Okay, well, here's the deal. We don't want to do anything we don't have to do today because they said you got some weapons. You got weapons on you, bro? All right. Here's what we're going to... Are you going to come out peacefully? Can we do this? Like adults? Yes? What I'm going to have you do is, can you turn around and put your hands through the window so I can handcuff you peacefully and walk you out? Can we do that? What's on your hands, bud? What is on your hands? Whose blood? Your blood? All right, let me glove up. Cover me.
Hey, can you put your hands right here for me? What's up? No, I'm not gonna shoot you.
We were
Unless you
just
do
told
something silly. Don't do anything silly. All right?
We're not here.
Cool. Hey, bud, do you have a knife on you? You don't have a knife? Can you lift up your t-shirt for me? Yeah, lift up your t-shirt so I can see.
All right.
All right.
Where are you bleeding from? All right, hey, come around, put your hands behind your back and put your hands right here so I can handcuff you. That way you can come out, we'll be all good, all right? We'll get you an ambulance, get you checked out, man. Something's going on with you. How does that sound?
Good, man. Good.
What's your name? Sir, talk to me. What's your name?
Body-worn camera 2 of 6. In the video, officers are overheard speaking with Mr. O'Bannon and attempting to safely handcuff him through the document opening in the clerk's office. An officer requests that additional officers respond to 540 Jones Street, as well as an ambulance.
Come on, put your hands right here so I can handcuff them, and then we can walk you out nice and easy, okay?
Everything's gonna be good. Just put your hands up here, please.
We're here to help. You're not in trouble. I don't even know what's going on, man. We just know there's a guy that's bleeding with a piece of wood.
Let us help you.
John 1-4, I'm here at 408 on standby. Just do me a favor, put your hands right here so I can handcuff them. It'll be easier. Because I'm not going to come in there after you if you got a weapon. That forces me to do things I don't want to do. If I get you in handcuffs, we can walk you out and we'll be all good, boss. That's it. The handcuffs are for our safety and for your safety. You're not under arrest. Why? Why is that? We're trying to make this a very peaceful resolution here. So are you going to walk out peacefully?
Leave that 2x4 where it's at, okay?
So if you come out, you're going to leave your hands where we can see them and on top of your head, yes? So you're not going to come out. John 1-4, I'm subject's being very uncooperative. He's still locked in the front desk window area. You got another unit? It's not locked?
He's locked. 11 Adam 98. 12 Adam.
John 11 Adam, was there another unit?
He's also covered in blood.
You're also covered in blood. Was there?
I'm gonna glove up.
Hold on.
Yeah, you should glove up. Sir!
Body-worn camera 3 of 6. In the video, the officers speak with Mr. O'Bannon, who is seen through the document opening holding a wooden board. Officers ask Mr. O'Bannon to put the board down and observe that his hand is bleeding.
John 11 Adam, was there another unit?
He's also covered in blood.
You're also covered in blood. Was there?
I'm gonna glove up.
Hold on.
Yeah, you should glove up. Sir, I feel like I've been very reasonable, have I not? I've been very reasonable. I had a great plan to get us out of here and to end this little standoff without anyone getting hurt. Please put the wood down.
Hey, boss, put the piece of wood down.
Please. Why? Why don't you want... Why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? Can you not? Well, I asked you for a peaceful resolution to this situation. You do not want to cooperate with me. I had a great plan. Let's put the wood down, come on out so we can get you an ambulance, because that finger's bleeding real good. And John won't frat him, he's still refusing to cooperate. Going back where? I'm just trying to get you to a hospital.
No, dude, we're only gonna go to the hospital.
I don't even know what's wrong, man.
170 on 97 on that.
You haven't even told me what's wrong.
We're just trying to help you, man.
Body-worn camera 4 of 6. In this segment, an SFPD sergeant is seen attempting to speak with Mr. O'Bannon and offering him help and medical assistance.
What's his name?
He hasn't told me. Say, pretty
You want me to talk to him?
sure, absolutely. Try something new.
Hello, sir. Hi, I'm Sergeant Earp with the police department. Good, how are you? How can we help you today? Is there anything that we can do to help you? What's that? Clean and easy? Sir. Can you speak up a little bit? Can you speak up a little bit? Okay, we want you to make this things easy on us. Okay, we really appreciate that. All right. Could you come out so we can get you checked out by an ambulance?
Body-worn camera 5 of 6. In the clip, a San Francisco Fire Department paramedic speaks with Mr. O'Bannon.
He's got a 2x4. Just watch.
Hi, my name's Allie. I'm a paramedic. How are you? What's your name? What's your name? Can you see that I'm not a police officer? Can you tell me your name? We're gonna go to the hospital, bud. You want to come out? You see my gurney? Can you see my gurney right here? See?
Body-worn camera 6 of 6. In this segment, a woman at the scene who identified herself as a case manager in the building spoke with Mr. O'Bannon.
Are you okay, sweetheart?
One for Adam.
What's the problem, babe?
I'm for Adam.
Huh?
Can you just put a northern unit?
What's going on?
We'll stand by at this 20. It's going to be 8 Octavia, which is Octavian E, not Octavian Market.
Are you able to keep yourself safe? Okay, so what we're trying to avoid right now, I'm a case manager, my office is upstairs. We're trying to avoid a confrontation right now, if possible. So is there anything I can do for you right now? Do you need anything?
The next video is a segment from the security cameras inside the clerk's office at 540 Jones Street. In the segment, officers open the back door of the office and attempt to take Mr. O'Bannon into custody. We will now play a slower version of the previous video. This video has been slowed to highlight the wooden board, Mr. O'Bannon's possession of a screwdriver, and an officer's use of pepper spray. The next video is a segment from the security camera in the back office of 540 Jones Street. In the video, you will observe officers quickly exit a rear door to the sidewalk in front of the building. Mr. O'Bannon follows the officers. The following video was retrieved from surveillance cameras on the exterior of 540 Jones Street. The video shows the officers exiting the building, Mr. O'Bannon following them, and the subsequent officer-involved shooting. We will now play a slower version of the previous video twice, each time to highlight Mr. O'Bannon's pursuit of the officer who discharged his firearm. The next video is from the body-worn camera of the officer who discharged his firearm. The video starts at the point where SFPD officers are preparing to enter the clerk's office where Mr. O'Bannon is located and ends following the officer-involved shooting.
Hey, we're ready to go. So we're good on the side? There's a box on that door, but they'll be easy.
Boxes in front of that door.
There's boxes.
No, those are for 82 only. Those are 82 only for Johnson 14 Adam.
Alright, 17, 2, 1, we're gonna go.
Yep. I'd say that, give that red light.
Red light, let's legal, let's legal. Get down on the ground now! Get down, motherfucker!
Back up. Let's go this way.
Blue on blue, watch the blue on blue.
Get something in front of there. Something in front of there. Let's go. Come this way. End up shooting at each other.
Watch the blue on
End
blue.
up shooting at each other. Come this way. Anderson, this way.
Fuck you. Watch Anderson, watch it. Back up, back up.
The following video still shows Mr. O'Bannon's hand and its proximity to the firearm of the involved officer. The final video is from the body-worn camera of a separate officer who is near the officer who discharged his firearm. It provides additional perspective of the officer-involved shooting. The video starts at the point where officers are preparing to enter the clerk's office where Mr. O'Bannon is located and ends following the officer-involved shooting.
I'd say that, give that red light.
Red light, let's legal, let's legal. Get down on the ground now! Get down, motherfucker! Now!
Let's go this way.
Blue on blue, watch the blue on blue!
Get something in front of there. Something in front of there.
Watch the blue on blue! Down, motherfucker!
Come this way.
Watch the blue on blue!
Shooting at each other. Come this way. Anderson, this way. Hey.
Watch Anderson, watch it! Back up, back up!
Get up, get up.
The last image is a video still of Mr. O'Bannon with the screwdriver. We will now show you a map of the area involved in these incidents. As mentioned, there are 3 incidents, one that occurred on the 600 block of Post Street in the 5:30 hour of Tuesday, April 21st. That's where the aggravated assault occurred. Second is 540 Jones Street, where the officer-involved shooting occurred. And third, you'll see an image of Glide Memorial Church on the map at 333 Ellis Street. Last, we will show you a photograph. This photograph is of the board held by Mr. O'Bannon with what appears to be blood. The board measures 4 feet 7 inches and was recovered at 540 Jones Street. That will conclude my presentation. I'd like to introduce Captain Carl Fabry, Commanding Officer of Tenderloin Station.
Thank you, Commander. My name is Carl Fabry. I'm the captain at Tenderloin Station. Over the past few years, as captain of the Tenderloin District Station, I've grown to fully appreciate the value of the relationships and trust shared between the Tenderloin community and the officers at our station. We understand the trust built between us and the community has to be built and maintained over years and not when suddenly thrust into crisis. I would like to acknowledge the staff at Glide. On a day when they were expected to provide meals and services for hundreds, if not thousands of people, they suddenly found themselves in the middle of a critical incident. Because of our established trust between our department and Glide, we were able to quickly meet with key staff members who provided us with invaluable information regarding the layout and access to the building. We assured them the police department's most highly trained crisis negotiators and tactical teams would do everything in their power to bring this incident to a conclusion without causing any injury to the suspect or our officers. I'd also like to thank the staff at Mercy Housing, which is directly across the street from Glide. They allowed us to use their community room so officers could rest, get water, and take short breaks as this incident unfolded over many hours. I would like to thank the SFPD Tactical Unit and Crisis Negotiators, whose training and expertise was truly put to the test on the day of this incident. Finally, I would like to thank Officer Jordan Townsend. Officer Townsend and his partner's full-time assignment at Tenderloin Station is working with the homeless population on the street, steering them toward resources, offering advice, showing compassion, and providing support in any way they can. I look forward to maintaining and building upon the relationships and trust our officers and community value so much in the Tenderloin. Chief Scott.
So first, I'd like to thank all of our viewers for joining us tonight. We now have time for public comment, as you see the call-in number on the screen. And after the conclusion of tonight's virtual town hall, all materials that have been presented tonight will be available on the San Francisco Police Department website. Thank you.
You have 2 questions remaining.
Caller, your 2 minutes begins now.
Hi, I'm Jenny Fay. I'm a board member and chair of the advocacy committee for the League of Women Voters of San Francisco. Thank you for holding the virtual town hall to uphold government transparency. However, having the police commission absent during an officer-involved shooting is not acceptable. We urge that the city allow the police commission to hold public meetings, as it is the body dedicated to oversight and discipline to ensure equitable public safety. The League believes a democratic government requires that governmental bodies protect citizens' right to know by giving adequate notice of proposed actions, holding open meetings, and making public records accessible. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have 0 questions remaining.
To get into the queue for public comment, please dial 10.
You have 1 question remaining.
So, police commissioners and Chief Scott, I've been listening to this virtual hall meeting, and all of y'all know that y'all haven't met for a long time. Now, suddenly when we see this video, we are very disturbed. Why are we disturbed? For the last 7 weeks, most of us are cooped up in our residences or homes. While I'm getting reports, and the chief knows me pretty well, I'm getting a lot of reports of assaults and a lot of people traumatized. I took the Muni twice, and both the times I encountered people who are assaulting others. I had to get down from the Muni bus. So I think we must stop showing something like this. This is not a movie. This is not a documentary. It doesn't prove anything. I have known police officers for over 45 years. I know what I speak about.
30 seconds remaining.
Of videos in a pandemic is not the right thing to do. So Chief Scott, please look at this and stop showing this type of videos. They just aggravate decent San Franciscans. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have 0 questions remaining.
Thank you. We will now conclude our virtual town hall. There are no other public comments in the queue, and I'd like to thank all of our viewers for tuning in tonight. Again, our mission with our town halls are to be transparent, to educate the public on our investigative processes, and to make sure that San Franciscans have access to the police department to voice their concerns and comments. Thank you, and please have a good evening, and stay safe.